I really wish I had something like this back when I was your guys' age. It's a huge deal.
We're going to explore the intersection of financial literacy, leadership, and performance. And we're going to do that in a fireside chat with two incredible individuals who have been successful both on and off the football field. So first, I'd like to introduce a former two-time all-conference running back from the Air Force Academy and our current Intuit Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer. Please welcome Greg Johnson. All right. Now, I'd also like to introduce someone who is, first and foremost, he's an entrepreneur for starting his own apparel and footwear company. He's someone who is very committed to supporting the community and those in need, especially with kids and military veterans. And he's been recognized for that incredible work by the NFL by winning the Bart Starr Award recently for outstanding character, integrity, and leadership. And he plays a little football too. In fact, he is an NFL four-time All-Pro. He is a four-time Pro Bowler. He is a former Offensive Player of the Year for the league. He is currently a finalist, which will be announced, the winner announced tomorrow. He is the current finalist for this season's NFL MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year. He is the pride of the Bay Area and your San Francisco 49ers. Please welcome Christian McCaffrey.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
All right. Man, what a privilege, Christian. What a privilege. I might just take this interview for myself. But hey, today we're here to talk a little bit about finances. And maybe the first question I have for you is, when you think back about that first paycheck, when you started to come into making real money, what did you learn when you look back at it? What is the advice you give to this audience as they start to come on, upon their first paycheck?
Yeah, well, first off, it's great to be here, man, and the fact that, yeah, you guys got to come everywhere with me. This is fantastic. No, I think it's such an amazing opportunity that you guys get to learn about financial literacy at this age. I really wish I had something like this back when I was your guys' age. It's a huge deal. It's inevitable. All of us are going to have to work someday, and to have this knowledge going in before you have to do that is absolutely incredible. So my first piece of advice is take advantage of this, because it really is a special program. I think you can do a lot of preparation before you get your first paycheck. I got drafted. I was 20 years old, and so I kind of came into a weird deal where I was in debt from parking tickets from college to now, you're playing in the NFL and making money, and you can prepare as much as you want until you actually get that. And I think the biggest piece of advice I would say for you guys before you get your first paycheck is learn the language of money. I think that's a big deal because it all makes sense, but there's a lot of big words that I didn't understand going into it. And so the quicker you can learn that kind of language and find a mentor, find somebody that's been through it, that's not just had success but made mistakes, and pick their brains at all times and learn from them. There's nothing like experience.
Hey, my understanding is that you're a chess player, like a good one. A really good one. So.
Not really good. Good. Not really good at all.
Hey, when you think about chess, a lot of times you think about not just that current move, not just putting somebody in check right away, but you got to think about 3 or 4 moves ahead. And when you think about your financial life, how would you apply lessons from chess to the way you think about how to approach your finances, particularly when you're young, you're coming up on 16, 17, 18 years old? What advice would you give them from the game of chess?
Yeah, I've never actually thought about how they correlate until now, so forgive me if it's a long-winded answer, but they definitely do have a lot of similarities. And I think the first thing being thinking in advance, thinking about the future, not about the present moment, thinking about the delayed gratification, not the instant gratification. Sometimes somebody gives you a piece and you want to take it, but they're setting you up for 3, 4 moves ahead, and that's the bait. That's the trap that I think a lot of the things in our generation and your guys' generation, that's a struggle, is that instant gratification. You want something now, you want to buy it, and but really it's probably not what's wisest for the future. I think the other thing is sacrifice. In chess you sacrifice all the time. Sometimes it might be tough to sacrifice, but again, if you're making decisions that benefit you in the future, you're going to be much happier later in life than digging yourself a hole. So that's another way chess is similar to finances. But yeah, there's a lot. I think in theory, it's my dad told me this when I was young, and I was very lucky. My dad played 13 years in the NFL, so I kind of got to grow up in the locker. I got to grow up in the locker room and learn a lot from him. And when you have money, the first and most important thing is don't lose it. And the easiest way to not lose it is to not spend it. I think that's simple. And you guys are gonna learn so much more than I learned at your age about finances. But that stuck with me forever, and to this day, I think that's the best piece of advice. Just because you have money does not mean you need to spend it, and there's nothing like compounding. Never take for granted, the gift of compounding.
Fantastic. Hey, do you guys want to hear more about chess? Or you want to hear a little bit about football? Okay.
Yeah, chess is boring.
That was great, though. So you had tremendous, high expectations, weighing on you since college, even probably coming out of high school. I mean, your career has been marked just by achievement and high expectations, and somehow, year after year, you continue to raise the bar. And even this year, heck, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but absolutely could be an MVP, certainly a future Hall of Famer. The bar keeps on going up and up and up. And maybe we would like to hear, how do you do that? How do you not become complacent? Whenever you achieve something, how do you actually think about what's next, continuing to push yourself further and continue to improve and grow? Because that's what it takes to be successful in life. You can't have success early and then kind of sit back. You actually got to find another gear. So any advice you could offer us around how you do it and insights that this room might be able to leverage?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's it's something that I think I'm still trying to figure out to this day, and that's that might be my answer, is that it's not really about this is how I did it. I'm always trying to figure out how to do it, and it's that constant search and that constant want to better myself, whatever it is, that's kind of gotten me to where I am, and it hasn't always been great. There's been a lot of struggle, a lot of adversity, but I think everything starts with a goal and a dream. I remember when I was 7 years old, knowing I wanted to be an NFL player. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if that would ever happen. And I think if you were to tell my younger self that I'd be where I'm at now, I wouldn't believe you. I think I was counted out kind of my whole life, and I always just wanted to make it to the NFL. That was always my goal, and whatever happened after that was what it was. And so I think partially having a chip on my shoulder my whole life always has been great. I think whenever you're doubted or you're counted out or somebody tells you can't do something, or even you have your own doubts, that's a superpower, because that's going to continue to drive you. I don't think that should be the main driving force, but that'll continue to drive you. And I grew up with 3 brothers. They're all my best friends, and I loved sports. We competed 24/7, and I really loved it. I loved playing basketball. I loved running track. I loved playing baseball, and obviously I loved football. And so the want to compete was so natural for me. I love competing. I don't play football for money, and I don't play football, even for accolades. I never have, and I never will. I think a lot of times I've found that guys that want the accolades and want the money, they're out of the league in 2 or 3 years. But the guys that love the game, ironically, are the ones that get the money and the accolades. And so I think your intention of why you do something is important. And I think when you love something, I always say, when you love something, you never have to work a day in your life. I think that's kind of true. It's very hard work. But there is a lot of truth to that. And football, for me, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I think it's the best game on the planet, and I get to do it for a living. And yeah, it's hard. It's more often hard than not. I think you guys see Sundays, and that's when we get to go out and have fun and be ourselves. But that's the minority of the year, and the majority of the year is a lot of, frankly, a lot of pain, a lot of hard work, a lot of soreness, long hours, stress. That's the majority of it. And I think when you love something, it's much easier to commit to those things, to commit to the hardships and what it takes to really get to a certain level, because it is a lifetime commitment. We have an off season, but there really isn't an off season. You're taking care of your body. You're constantly doing things, again, just to better yourself. I think in your guys' world, you guys have phones and social media, and there's a plethora of information on your hand 24/7. And I think knowing what information to take in, when to take it in, is a huge challenge. And so I would say, like, you have a Cheesecake Factory menu of ways to get better. Mm-hmm. And the challenge is always knowing what to order, because you can't order everything. And so, to your question, I think it's a lifetime of genuine love for football, genuine love for the people that helped me get to where I am, and a lifetime of hard work and consistency over time. There's not some one-word answer of this is why somebody's great. I think it's just consistent commitment over time through the peaks and valleys of life, and just showing up every day and staying in the game.
And has that been the case in your financial life?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the financial career is your life. Football ends one day, and I think that's another huge thing. A lot of NFL players and professional athletes in general forget is, when you're done playing, the checks stop coming in, and so you go from making all of this money, and now you're retired at 30 years of age. You have a lifetime ahead of you, and how you save that money is essential, unless you have jobs planned for after football. But the 99% of people, these are the largest checks you'll ever see, and then it stops. And so it's consistency over time. It's also learning. I think having the humility to understand that you're not the smartest person in any room, and putting yourself in rooms where you're not. Another great piece of advice somebody gave me was about financial literacy, and just overall how to take care of your money is get a board of advisors, whatever that means for you, whether it's your dad, your mom, whoever it is that you respect who's done a great job with their money, whether it's a friend, parent, or a cousin, whoever it is, somebody that's come into money and done a really good job taking care of it. That's your board of advisors, and you go to them with anything you have. You ask them questions. If something ever comes across your plate, hey, I got an investment opportunity. What do you think about this? Don't assume you know everything. Continue to ask, continue to go through those experiences with people, so that over time you learn what works and what doesn't. That's been super helpful for me.
Great advice, great advice. You historically have had a contract with Nike, and you've also now, though, kind of branded out and created your own brand, launched your business. You're a co-founder, right, of Wild on Earth. That move from becoming kind of an employee and more of a paycheck recipient versus having equity in something, owning something, being entrepreneurial. What was the mindset? Can you walk us through a little bit about that choice, why you made it, and what you hope to come of this move to While on Earth, as that becomes a thriving business?
Yeah, so I was with a Nike athlete my whole life, and the reality of a shoe brand deal isn't, unless somebody like myself, I'm not going to, when I'm done playing, I'm not going to have a Nike deal. I'm not going to be on the field, so there's no need to have a Nike deal. They're not going to pay me. And so again, thinking of what I was talking about earlier about the life after football and how to set yourself up for success, during a time where they always say strike while the iron's hot. Well, right now, I'm playing in the NFL, playing for the best team on the planet and a team in the best city. And so why not capitalize on some of these opportunities? And so I had my Nike contract was up, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do. There's Adidas, there's Under Armour, there's all these other brands, but in reality, that doesn't transcend football. And so I had a guy come to my house, actually. His name's Todd Mulaney. He's the founder of While on Earth, and it's a shoe apparel brand if you guys want to check it out. It's unbelievable stuff. And but we're brand new, and I fell in love with the product, which was the first thing that I if you're ever going to make an investment or decide to put your name on something, you have to like the product. I loved the product. I thought the shoes were incredible. They were uncomfortable, or they were comfortable, and they were a little bit different. And I liked that. The way it fit, and he'd had a background of doing this before. He was the CMO at Noble and helped grow that company to where it was. And so he understood the business, fell in love with the guy. The guy was incredibly smart, driven, great family man, shared a lot of the same values. So that was the second part. I loved the product and I loved the people. Business and investments and finances, football, sport, it's a people business. And, a lot of times you're investing in a person as well as the company. So I fell in love with the product, the people, the team, and I thought to myself, this would be a really cool project to have and to take on, so that whenever I do stop playing football, I have at least something, one of many things, but there is going to be something tangible that I can help build and grow. And you know what? If it fails, I liked the product and I liked the people, and I'll go down swinging, and I get years of experience. This isn't everything. And that's what I love too. I'm like, you know what? Sometimes, it's better to get, $25,000 of education than $25,000, because that education and that experience that you have can help you, double, triple, quadruple that in the future. So that was something for me that I fell in love with, and it's been so much fun. We're a year in now, and to watch the team work the way they do. To sit in the design meetings, to sit in the brand meetings, to go over what all that's like, that's new to me. And so being a part of a startup, in a way is great experience. And as somebody who does a lot of, venture work and, alternative investment work, seeing, being in a startup world is a pretty cool experience for me as well.
Wow. I tell you what, hey, I'm sure you have other questions, better questions maybe than I've asked. He's done a phenomenal job, Christian, just kind of educating us all. We're going to open it up to the room to see if there are any questions. There's some mics raise your hand loud and proud. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Will Caldenbaugh. I'm from Carmont High School, and I wanted to ask you, what are some core financial rules that you live by, like when a paycheck hits or something like that? What is like the first thing you do with that money to ensure that it's going to the right place?
Yeah, that's a great question. Very good question. One of the first things I do, I also have a foundation, Christian McCaffrey Foundation, and I always like to donate to my foundation, and I think that's just from a principle standpoint. I love giving back. We work with military veterans and we work with children who are sick in hospitals, so that's something that I always like doing. But I don't. A lot of the times when I get a paycheck, I don't touch it. I wait and see kind of what's going on. If there's an opportunity that makes financial sense, I'll jump at it, but I don't touch it. And I think over time I've accumulated wealth to where I can, I have more freedom now if I wanted to invest my money in, a startup or maybe it's a better developed company in a Series C or D. I have that freedom now, but I have that freedom to do that because of the way I didn't spend my money. Again, it goes back to what my dad taught me. The best way to not lose your money is not spend your money. I waited a long time until I bought a house, till I bought a car. My first 4 years in the league until I got my second contract, I hadn't bought a house yet. Maybe I could have, but I didn't know where I was going to be, so I decided to, just kind of get an apartment. I got as many car deals as I could my first 4 years so that, they could just keep giving me cars, and then I could, I would have to give them back every 3 or 4 months. But I didn't buy a car for my first 3 or 4 years, and I lived at home in Denver. I trained in Denver. I was a Pro Bowler living with my parents, and they probably didn't like that. But I was trying to just, I didn't know what was going to happen, and I was lucky that my dad played in the NFL, and so I had some of that advice. But I just let time take care of some of that stuff, and now that I have, I've accumulated more wealth, I can have more opportunities where they arise to invest or to spend money on something.
One over here.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Hanav. I'm from Santa Clara High School. And just first off, I would like to say thank you, Mr. McCaffrey, for being such an inspiration, both on and off the field. I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say that. The question that I have is, given this world that we are in, where a lot of students want to go to college, and college is getting very expensive, and it's likely going to get more expensive soon, I was wondering, what is your advice for how students can prepare for paying for college and making their education more affordable?
That's an unbelievable question. I don't know if I'm the guy to ask. That's a really good question, and as somebody, I have a 6-month-old daughter, and so now all these thoughts are kind of coming into my life as well. Again, I think you guys are at an interesting stage in life, and transparently, when I went to Stanford, and it's a great school, and I loved it. But I really wanted to play in the NFL, and again, I went to Stanford because I didn't know if I was going to. And I thought, this is the best school that I could get into. And if I go here and football doesn't work out, I at least have an education and a network where I can see what happens. And not knowing the future is, I think, the thing that makes life exciting. It forces you to bet on yourself a little bit and take risks. But it's also a major challenge. And so I think you guys in this generation now have to plan and grow up quicker than ever before, definitely quicker than when I was your age. And so it's very wise that you're asking questions like that. And with how expensive colleges are, I think, as long as you have a plan, if you're going to college and you're like, I want to do X, Y, or Z, going to this school is going to get me there, then now it's expensive, but it's an investment. And you're investing in your future. And there are ways to get there and pay it off and do those things. But I think if you have a plan, you have a vision, you commit to it, I look at it as more of an investment in a network. I think a lot of this is a bad analogy, but like the country club dad, it's like a lot of people invest a lot of money to be members at a country club to play golf, but really you're investing in a network. You're around really successful people who are businessmen, and that's where you might talk about the next deal you're in, or a next investment you make, or somebody that can help you. And so one of the biggest benefits of college is the network that you'll have access to, as long as you're diligent enough and work hard enough to understand that that's a massive advantage. A lot of people go to college to have fun for 4 years, and again, you can dig yourself a hole doing that. I'm not saying don't have fun, but I think having that goal in mind is extremely important. And I don't know if there's an exact answer, but that would be my mindset when you're approaching college.
Hi, I'm Ankush, and my main question was, when you first saw that $1 million paycheck, what was racing through your mind? Like, what to do with the money and everything?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I didn't even look at it. I got drafted in 2017. I was the 8th pick in the draft. Again, I was 20 years old. But with being a top 10 draft pick, it's great. It comes with a lot of pressure. And again, I knew what the league entailed, and so I didn't care in the way that somebody might, because and I think you talk to any major CEOs. I remember I was at a conference and Jensen Huang was speaking as the CEO in NVIDIA, and I sat down with him and talked to him a little bit, and he said, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get into this world, I wish you nothing but pain and suffering, because that's what it took me. You know, that's one of the richest people on the planet. So again, money is, it's not all that life is about. And so when I got that first paycheck, it wasn't like that was it for me. I was like, yeah, now, you know, obviously you can, help your family, and it's generational wealth. And I didn't take that for granted. That meant a lot to me. But I knew what I had to do to be the best player I could be. And that outweighed any kind of emotion that I could ever have getting money. And I knew there's a lot of people relying on me. And so, you know, a lot of times if you're a CEO of a company, the same way as if you're an NFL player and you get drafted and you make a lot of money, and that's great. But you got to remember, you have employees and I have teammates, and they're counting on me to be at my best. So now my energy shifted from, this is really cool that I have this check. What got you here? A lifetime of hard work and sacrifice. And okay, if that's what it takes to get this money, keep doing it. And so I just kept working.
Hi, my name is Layla, and I'm from Notre Dame Belmont High School. And I wanted to ask you, what is one or many financial mistakes that the young generation has made, and how can we avoid them? And then my second question is, what was your very first big financial purchase?
Great question.
Or splurge?
Well, in the NFL, I think the two ways guys lose their money is lifestyle, spending money on cars and stuff that they can afford in the moment, but in 15 years they can't. So spending money on lifestyle is number one. And two, bad investments. I think a lot of times people think, you know, oh, well, you need to invest. And that's true to an extent, but, you know, a lot of these investments don't work. Most of them don't work. That's the reality of life. And so, you know, you might think, oh, I'm getting in because there's this famous guy who's a billionaire and he's telling me to invest in this company. Well, he's a billionaire, of course. You know, of course I should do it. But, you know, I think people forget those guys have money to lose and you don't. And so I think there's a place to take risks when it comes to your finances. But if you're going to take a risk, you have to be willing to lose that and be okay with it. And if you're not, it's not worth the risk. And so to me, those are the two ways that people lose money: is lifestyle, trying to pay for the way you want to look to the outside world, and then bad investments. Frankly, you know, it's simple, not easy. And then two, my first big purchase. This is what's funny too, and I bought when I got my second contract. It was after my third season. I just came off a really good season. Again, I hadn't spent money on anything. And I was so fired up. I love James Bond, and so I bought an Aston Martin. It was a sweet car, all black, matte black. He clapping. I sold it a year later because I never drove it, and I was like, you know what? And cars don't go up in value. I never drove it. It was really cool. It looked good. When I pulled up, people talked about it, and then I came to the point where I was like, you know, this is so dumb. The thought of doing this was much cooler than actually doing it, and it was so much money. Like I could have invested that money. I could have done something much better with that money to where I could, you know, the mindset changed for me, and that's kind of when I realized that you know, I didn't need all that. So that was my first big purchase. Also not a good one.
Hello, I'm Matthew. I'm from Carmel High School. And I wanted to ask you,
Yes, sir.
my question was, like, when you first became, like, when you, like, made it out, sort of, how did you, like, figure out, I know, like, a lot of people came up to you and probably try to, like, cling off of your success. How did you figure out who to trust and who to not trust? And then my second question is, who do you think would win the Super Bowl?
Great question. Yeah, I feel so lucky, man. And again, I think going back to where I'm at today, I think somebody asked this earlier. I think the main reason I am where I am is because of the people around me. it takes a village for any single person to have success, and life is a big team game. And I feel like the luckiest guy on the planet for having, 2 loving parents who raised us so well, 3 of brothers who are my best friends, and unbelievable friends. All my best friends are still my high school friends. I was talking to them earlier. A lot of them work for me. I kind of keep them around, and they're my best friends, man. Like I'm just like you guys in reality, just older. But yeah, so I never ran into a lot of that, and I think it's because of the way I was raised and the company that I keep. I try to keep good-hearted people around me. I've never had to change my phone number, and I think that's just because I just keep good people around me and feel really blessed to have great family and great friends. And I don't know, I think I don't know how to answer that because I've never had to deal with that to an extreme extent. And I think that's intentional. It's because I kind of nip it in the bud right away. I don't let people who are trying to take something from me really around. And then the Super Bowl question, I don't know. I just hope it's a good game.
Wish you were in it, Christian. So, hey, we're about to wrap up. A few things that I heard that I just would want to emphasize. Bet on yourself. You talked about the need for perseverance, hard work, invest in the long term. There are all these life lessons that you all can take advantage of right now, starting today. That's going to prepare you for the future. And Christian, I tell you, you're a role model. The success that you've worked hard to earn, and you're not nearly done yet. You're not, you got many more years ahead of you. And tomorrow will be a big day. Wishing you the best. Whenever they announce awards. And congratulations on a career, and thank you for paying it forward. Everybody in this audience has the opportunity to have the kind of success in their own way that you've enjoyed, and hopefully they'll take that away. Any parting thoughts to the team?
Yeah, I think the other thing I want to mention too, man, is I have a lot of empathy for you guys because of the way the world looks right now with phones and social media and your guys' generation. It's very hard to navigate life, and so I guess I want to also remind you guys to have fun, man. Like, it sounds very cliche and simple, but I'm 29 now. I'm happily married. I have a daughter. I love my life. And I still my high school friends are my best friends. Those are the best times of my life. And they're all still a part of my family, and I'm a part of their family. And so don't forget to enjoy where you're at. I think sometimes when I look back on my life, I was always looking to the future, which is a good thing. It is. But, be present, be where your feet are. When there is time to enjoy with your family, with your friends, man, just be there. Financial literacy and money is important. It's a very important thing, and it's important to be wise on that, but it's not what life's about. Life's about the people. It's about community, it's about family, it's about friends, and it's about enjoying, this beautiful gift that God's given us with each other. So I just want to remind you about that too. So just take a little bit of pressure off yourselves, because you don't have to have it all figured out right now. You definitely don't.
All right. We are going to wrap up here. You have a great opportunity to get hands-on training and start working on that future. The best of luck to you. Thank you for being engaged, and have a great time here.